All of them as well. What a move for the 48. Oh, look at this. And onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
Don't trust your hearing. You made a monster, I'm your imposter. Go ahead and wander, but don't trust the water. I'm another of the deep.
Hello everybody and welcome to Barcelona for the opening round of the World Sportscar Championship here for 2024. It's a new and expanded calendar as we take on 8 rounds this time, taking us towards the end of March for the second season of this great championship. Last time around it was just the 6 rounds. We've got an expanded grid as well of 48 drivers who are here on the grid, nearly 50 ready to take on this opening round. My name is Ewan O'Leary alongside Jack Stiles here for the first 90 minutes of the season. Jack, it's good to be alongside you for this one. LMP3 and GT4 racing returning once again after the break over the winter time. It's time to go racing again in 2024.
It is indeed, and what a fantastic concept putting these two classes together are. Of course, they're used in the real world as stepping stones up to the big time, but they create some fantastic racing, and I'm sure all season long will be the same story. Barcelona as well is renowned for its endurance pedigree in recent years, with the RL Series using it quite regularly, and I think it's going to create some good racing.
And it's a World Sports Car Championship in every sense of the word. 4 continents visited over the course of the 8 rounds. The European double-header to start off at Barcelona and Monza. Then we go over to Road Atlanta for round 3, ahead of the only South American round at round 4. That's Interlagos. Then back to America again for round 5. Daytona, the venue where we ended off our first season. Mugello makes its debut on the calendar for round 6, ahead of Fuji and Sebring. A double-header in terms of there's no week break between those final 2 rounds, as there is between all of the others. So it's going to be a pretty full-on end to this season, but it's a very nicely balanced calendar here, I've got to say, Jack. It's all over the world. World Sports Car Championship in every sense of the word, and a slightly expanded calendar as well, because 6 rounds was a little bit on the short side. We were running out of time in 2023, to be fair. It's nice that we've got sort of the first half of 2024, if you like, to experience 8 rounds of this championship this time around.
And there's some fantastic circuits on there as well. I think all of those circuits will create excellent multi-class racing. I'm excited to see Mugello on there as well. I think that's going to, it's a very interesting circuit, obviously very recently added to the iRacing service, but a fantastic one nonetheless, especially for GT4s. I think that could be a particular challenge, owing that it tends more to the higher downforce cars. So GT4s will be an interesting one to see around that circuit, as they will need to use all of the track. GT4 qualifying underway on your screens, just over 8.5 minutes to go.
Yep. We've already had the LMP3 qualifying, by the way. The LMP3s get the first 15 minutes, and then we've got the GT4s. It's Nathan Moore who's taken pole in the LMP3 in Pro, by the way, with Dylan Vanshaw who's taken the AM pole. We've got the same format in that respect as we had in 2023, by the way. We've got LMP3 and GT4 as we've referenced, but more importantly we've got Pro and AM to figure out here, so it means that we've got 4 championships to worry about, as well as a team's title for everybody to grab as well. It does make it a little bit on the complicated side, but it leaves everyone with something to race for. But the thing that makes this series so special, of course, Jack, is that we don't sort out Pro and AM drivers, especially not in terms of points, not in terms of the grid either, really. So it means that everybody's thrown in together, and effectively it is one big class. Only you are worrying about those who are in your class if you're a pro, or your class if you're an AM as well. Makes it slightly complicated, but allows everyone to get together and all race together, even if they're not in the same class.
And I think it's a very interesting way of approaching the split in ability of the drivers, of course. And if you're an AM, you can follow the pros, you can learn from them. You can learn so much from following a pro for a lap. And you might find some of the AMs are doing it here in qualifying. Of course, it's an open qualifying session. You can run around with who you like. I'm sure some of these teams are working together to create a draft train, as we can probably see 2 cars actually doing it here, and that's a really good example. So I like the approach of putting pros and AMs together, especially in qualifying. It just adds that little bit of an extra mix, Ewan, into the factor of what's going to be the best strategy here for getting the most out of qualifying, and then the 90-minute race, because 2 pit stops, 90 minutes, you've got a lot of thinking to do.
You do, and that's been made, well, you could say made worse, made more interesting, I think I'll go for, as a spectator, by the fact that we've limited the fuel levels for these 2 cars, and based on what we saw at the media day, which happened just previous to this round, not a championship points round, but just sort of a round where everyone can get used to each other and so on. The admins, if you like, have amended the amount of fuel that you can have on board. So in LMP3, 63% of the tank is able to be used, and GT4, 58% of the tank can be used. Quite specific numbers, I think you've got to say, but that should enforce 2 stops for everyone today.
I was having exactly the same thought then, Ewan, when you were reading those numbers. I was thinking they are very specific, but they're obviously there for a reason. They're there to ensure everyone does 2 pit stops, because you have to consider, would it be faster if you just about had enough fuel on a fuel-saving strategy at some of these circuits? It would be possible to do it on 1. Barcelona, it's going to be a circuit, especially in these cars, you're going to have a lot of time on throttle. The fuel saving may be a little bit harder, but I'm thinking somewhere like Road Atlanta, Ewan, maybe it would be possible to get that 1-stop strategy and really take advantage of the fuel limit. So props to the admins and really nailing down on that to make sure everyone does 2 stops, although fuel saving will still be incredibly important, because there's one thing I have learned growing up watching endurance racing and then competing on the iRacing service in endurance racing. the less time you spend in the pits, the better, because you've got more time out on circuit that you can be using to make up positions.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely key throughout today to try and minimise your time down on pit lane if you can, and we are certainly going to see some short stops towards the end, I would imagine, based on experience from one season ago. They did also release some notes about some sort of observations and some advice to the drivers, which doesn't always happen actually, but it's nice that the admins have almost given some driving advice to everyone here, and it's not driving advice as in go faster and do turn one like this or whatever. They're saying how to monitor traffic and how to manage traffic, specifically the GT4s, telling them to stay to the racing line and be predictable. It is of course sort of rule number one of endurance racing in some ways, isn't it, especially when you're talking about traffic. However, if you're not particularly used to multi-class racing especially, you won't know that rule especially, and so it's worth reminding the GT drivers that they do have to stay on the line, but in the same breath they did also remind the prototype drivers to be careful of the GTs because they're not as nimble. So it's just a reminder basically from race control to be mindful of the other class, because it's very easy to forget and it's very easy to sort of run over the GT4s if you're in an LMP3, and it's very easy to want to get out the way sometimes if you're in a GT as well, and you can't be doing either of those if you want a clean multi-class race, which is what we're hoping to see tonight.
It definitely takes two to tango when you're working through traffic. In a GT car, you've got to have an eye on the mirror at all times. It is the faster car's responsibility to pass safely. That, I think, is rule number one of multi-class racing. It's something that gets said a lot in these situations. However, the GT driver should still have an eye on the rearview mirror. They need to know what's going on around them. For the prototype drivers, they are going to gain or lose so much time in traffic. You will see some drivers getting aggressive in traffic, potentially on the first pass through, because that's where you could gain a lot of time or lose a lot of time on the other hand. And especially towards the end of the race, where everyone's really going for that, say, final last 5-10 minutes, no one's going to get one to caught behind a GT4 going into a hairpin, because you could lose 2 or 3 seconds, and that could be your chance at a podium or win gone. It is round one. I would like to think we see a bit more measured driving. Everyone's still learning how they drive. It's going to take a few races for people to really understand the dynamic of the multi-class, especially if you're coming in with less experience than others. It's going to be an interesting one. I think Barcelona being a very wide open, especially an FIA Grade 1 circuit, is going to promote easier, better overtaking opportunities for the prototypes.
It's going to take a little while to get to that point, but that's what happens in a season like this. We've got some very different names on the grid, by the way, here for this season. Eric Grove not returning, at least for this opening round of the new season, unfortunately for him. But we do have second place driver in the GT4 Pro Championship, Richard Simner, on the grid. He was 31 points away from winning a title last season. He's currently qualified down in 9th position in the pros, just behind Andy Shield, who got a top 5 in the standings last season as well, although had some woeful luck throughout, I've got to say. We'll see if he can do any better maybe this time around. There is Richard Simner in a Porsche Cayman on this occasion. In terms of variety out there on the circuit right now, we've got an Aston Martin leading the way ahead of a Mercedes. And in fact, it's those two manufacturers that mob the first 7 positions. We'll wait and see whether it's a Barcelona thing or whether those two cars are really the strongest, but you've got to remember that there's at least one iRacing season change between now and the end of the season, so you just do not know what's going to happen between now and the end with the cars and BOP and all of that kind of thing.
And obviously with the patch that we're going to see in the coming days, it's going to bring a lot of change, not necessarily for these cars, Ewan, but we could still see BOP. There will almost certainly potentially be BOP adjustments. I think iRacing is always looking at the BOP. How can we improve it? How can we make it a more balanced field? However good your BOP is, you will still get some cars that are stronger at some circuits than others. So, as you mentioned, we've got 2 manufacturers mopping the top 7 at the moment, but we could go to another circuit, we could go to round 2, and it'd be a completely different story. And another car's got a little bit of an advantage. Richard Simner in the Porsche, it's maybe a less popular choice in the GT4 class these days. Personally, for me, a car that's a little bit harder to drive, but I think if you can really get it on the edge, you can extract a really good amount of pace from that car. I'm interested to see how he goes across the course of the season and really extracts the most out of that.
Yeah, so don't be too disheartened if you're looking for a Porsche win here this season and you've seen the times at the moment. It's Not going to say it all about this entire season. In fact, Simner used the Porsche Cayman last season to that second position in the standings in which 4 different manufacturers covered the top 4 places, so it was pretty well balanced by the end 1 season ago, and I expect something similar here this season as well. Just following through the final few moments of qualifying here, Adam Isaacson looks like he's taken pole position here ahead of Alessandro Proti for the GT4 Pros, and in GT4 AM it looks like Nick King-McGee has taken the pole position there, although Josh Boot is coming around the final corner at the moment. He's exactly 1/10 behind King-McGee at the moment. Over the line goes Josh Boot. Is that going to be an improvement? Doesn't look like it for him, and so he will stay third. Josh Boot, and that's will be where he qualifies by the looks of things. To put that into context, that is 12th overall in GT4. Josh Boot, of course, missed out so narrowly on the championship last season. Just 9 points separated him and Lee Berridge at the end there, and so he'll be looking to go one better on this occasion. That was the closest of the 4 championships, by the way, GT4 AM, so hopefully we can see something similar here. In LMP3, by the way, in the overall standings, we don't have Jürgen Frank back either. In fact, it's a lot of reigning champions not returning, so it's really difficult to know what to expect in some ways, and who to expect to be at the front.
And I think today is really going to be setting the benchmark for what we're going to see throughout the rest of the season as to who's going to be the car to beat, who's going to be the team to beat. We could see some team tactics, as you mentioned, Ewan. There is a team's championship. There are multiple teams on this grid working together. I would not be surprised, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see the outcome of that as to what people do over the course of a race. I know I've already said this, but I think it's going to be an important one. Today is the benchmark. Today we're going to find out who is going to be our contenders, and from there it's all going to get more exciting.
It's going to be a very exciting opening round of the season. Last time around this was at Sebring, of course, and the bumps will be returning there a little bit later on this time around. Stay tuned for the finale this time around in the World Sports Car Championship to return to the bumps once again at the end of May. But this time around it will be Circuit Catalunya, not with the awkward and clunky final sector anymore. We'll be taking the flowing, nice wide line through turns 10 and 11 before the faster final 2 turns as well. Nathan Moore will be leading them into those turns as he takes the pole position here in LMP3. Christophe Herbigno held it for a little while, but he will be alongside him in second, and then there's a big gap back to Julien Plumet and Dylan Vanchar, the first of the AM drivers, who will be starting from 4th. Adam State and Matt Caruana will be on the next row, with Leo Bonman in the 7th position ahead of Matthias Penteler in 8th. It's Niklas Loft in 9th ahead of Callum Brandt, lining up behind his RD Simsport teammate on the outside there. Odson Motorsport Esport will have Mats Kjeldsen on the 11th position ahead of Mert Menderes in 12th. 13th position will go to Dan Piazza, who's 3rd in the AMS ahead of 4th in the AMS Adam Locke. Peter Herschel and Duriano Ricciuti will be next in row 8. Juppé Meister a little bit far down in 17th for returning driver alongside Nicholas Skertz in this row. It's Taylor Lane and Nicholas Salapoutis to round out the top 20, with Nick Baggerman 21st ahead of Mac Mafarquhar, who put in some good performances last season too. Tom Weston and Adam Hedgecock round out row 12 ahead of Chico Levtar and Toby Ward to round out the LMP3s before we get into our GT4 pole sitter. Adam Isaacson takes that one by just under 1/10 of a second ahead of Alessandro Proti. Ashley Finch and Jeremy Rollo will be on the second of the GT4 rows ahead of Timo Hayden and Emmanuel Gaxella. It will be Sasha Engelsey with Andy Scheel on row 4 ahead of Richard Simner, and Lee King-McGee will be the first of the AM GT4 drivers. Riley Phillips and Josh Boot line up in second and third there too, with Akram Zinune. It will be Michael Goff to round out the top 40 overall. Reigning GT4 AM champion Lee Berridge will be alongside Paul King for this race. Gergely Kinsabo makes his trip down to the GT4s after racing in the LMP3s last season. It will be Howard Hassan making a return to the GT4s alongside him. Evangelos Natafas returns again as well, with Jack Wilkins, the 2 teammates, lining up on row 23. It will be Rob Sutherland and Caleb Ruddock in 47th and 48th ahead of Elijah Seville and Andy Sharp to round out 50 cars on the grid and an absolutely huge entry for the opening round of the season. In fact, it's only Elijah Seville who was the last to set a time. Andy Sharp, I hope, gets onto the grid here for this one and makes it out there to bring it up to 50. What a busy race stock we're going to have here, Jack. What a busy opening round. Hopefully, it's an entertaining first 90 minutes of this season, though.
I'm sure it will be as the cars start rolling towards the green flag. It will indeed be a busy race circuit, 50 cars over 2 classes, Ewan. It's going to be exciting, it's going to be brilliant, and 90 minutes of racing coming your way.
Into the final couple of corners for Nathan Moore, who's in control of this field all over again. He was here last season, of course, put some good challenge up to the Sim RC boys, but now that they're not here, can he step into that void and take on the World Sports Car Championship in 2024. It's season 2, ready to get underway in Catalonia, ready to make its debut in this championship. Nathan Moore will get us underway for 90 minutes of racing in the opening round of the World Sports Car Championship, and he's caught everybody else napping by the looks of things. It's free wide up for 4th place at the moment, but Nathan Moore doesn't have to be involved in any of it. He makes his way towards turn 1 cleanly. There's a bit of contact with one of his teammates just in behind, and a big dive down the inside too. Moore will take the lead by quite some distance. In second position, it's going to be Christophe Herbignon who holds on to his place. It was down the inside there, Adam State making some great moves up into 3rd, then Julien Plumet who's down to 4th as the GT4s also get underway in the field. It's Adam Isaacson who's got off to a good start here too. In fact, both pole sitters of both classes of car have gotten off to good starts as there's trouble in LMP3. One of the drivers finding themselves into the grass and a big slide through turn 5 as well.
And that I was thinking I was going to say everyone clearly through the start of the LMP3 field, but it doesn't look to be the case. Julien Plumet has plummeted down the field, back in towards the mid-pack. There was another car off into the wall. I didn't quite catch who it was, but GT4 seemed to have survived as well, as I've also spoken way too soon. Someone's round in the background, but everyone looks to be through safely. We're going to avoid the need for a safety car on this start of round number 1. So a few hiccups, Ewan, but pretty much everyone underway here at Barcelona.
Yeah, pretty good. Good start for everybody, and hopefully we can settle into a nice rhythm now early on in the season as well. It's Nathan Moore who's going to lead them over the line for the first time, and actually got off to a really good start, got out to a pretty big lead early on, but that's been since reeled in by Christophe Herbignon. It's out to about half a second at the moment, but the first side-by-side is happening back here. Look at this. Chaos in the background. There's side-by-side going on right the way through the field. 27 LMP3s, by the way, in the field here today, and just 23 GT4s. One of those that went for a spin, I'm not sure whether this was the spin here, Jack, but Lee King McGee, who qualified on pole in GT4 AM, has spun around and he's now last in the entire field.
I do think it was Lee King McGee. He's now coming through the ends, the last 2 corners, through turns 12 and 13. He's dropped a long way back from the GT4 pack. So yes, I think that was him. I'm pretty sure it was the number 7 car around that we saw on the left-hand side of your screen on that very first lap. Just a little bit of squabbling going on towards the back of the LMP3 field. Looks like for P16, but everyone's sort of settled down as they head into Sector 2. This right-hand corner in these LMP3s, that's going to get tricky late on in the race, Ewan. And I'm sure we'll talk about this as the 90 minutes go on. The LMP3 cars, they might be a prototype, but they are more understeery than you'd think. They're built for AMs, they're built to be driven easily, and I think some of that comes where you have to then introduce a little bit of understeer. Looking at Andy Scheel in the GT4 class for a bit of a move, but wasn't quite able to make it off.
We're single file mostly at the front of GT4. Adam Isaacson's leading the way ahead of Alessandro Proti. They've got pretty big gaps. Back to Jeremy Rouleau, who's really the first in this train. Then it's Ashley Finch in 4th place at Timo Hayden in the Impulse car. You can see Sasha Inglesey there as well. Double Impulse actually, you can see in the mid-pack there. It is Emmanuel Gazella as well in 7th position ahead of Andy Scheel, who we're back with now, out of Richard Simner, and then Briley Phillips, the first of the AM drivers, although coming under a bit of pressure here. Phillips from Akram Sinune in that 94 car. Briley Phillips looking to apply the pressure as well, so it's all a bit complicated here. Just over a second back to Josh Boot, and So that's going to be pleasing to... Oh, it's got the leader off. Adam Isaacson's off into the grass, and he's got no front end. The front right is down on that Sim RC Aston Martin as well. How on earth has that happened?
There was a little bit of bodywork left in the gravel, I can see. I think it was his front bumper and his rejoin as well. I think everyone's going to be glad to have survived that. You can see him going slowly at the top of your screen. That is one very damaged Aston Martin. I cannot see that going much further in this race. Oh, I didn't think it was going to stop for the corner then, Ewan, the number 78. I don't know what's happened to Isaac here. It looks like maybe has he just got off on the last corner? I'm not sure. No, I don't know what it could be.
Has he hit the curb here on the entry here? Oh dear,
wow.
Oh dear. That's a huge bit of contact with that curb, and that's why I've got to say I'm always very uncomfortable hitting it. If you're a driver in that situation, I know these guys are trying to get absolutely everything they can, and that BMW did a very good job to keep it on the road, by the way. But if you're a driver there, surely you've got to be thinking twice about that curb, because the way Adam Isaacson there absolutely smacked it was quite vicious.
Yeah, it just looks as though it's something that I saw a lot of people doing qualifying, and I just wonder whether Adam Isaacson got it in the slightly wrong place in hitting that in between turns 12 and 13. It is a very vicious curve. Of course, it's there to stop people running too wide when you're using the little Grand Prix chicane, which thankfully we're not, because I'm not a fan of that layout here at Catalonia. So I think it's something that the drivers will have to look at. I don't think we're going to see it used as much in LMP3. Of course, those cars running a lot closer to the ground. GT4 can use it because they are more road car spec. They're going to sit higher on the ride height. I do wonder whether some people will now think twice about using that curb, though, Ewan, to open up that entry into turn 13. As I say that, and I can see they're not. They're still using it, and I think we could see more of that situation. Although I have to say, fair play to Adam Isaacson for keeping it in a straight line when it landed. I'm not going to say fair play for the rejoin. I think that may have been a little bit too dangerous, but race control will probably have a look at that after the race.
Yeah, that will be looked at later on, but what a shame for the Sim RC driver who qualified on pole here to drop down the field so early on. Good evening to everyone who's watching on here this evening, by the way, including Ben Gregory, who said apologies for his absence. He said he's stuck in hospital. Well, I hope that you're okay, or it's okay, whatever you're there for. So yeah, hopefully we can see Ben Gregory back in this series again for the second season in a row in the coming rounds. Let's have another look at the replay off of the start here. This is back in LMP3. I thought we'd had quite a clean run through turn 1 actually in LMP3, but clearly not. Right at the back of the field, there was bodywork lost back here.
And I think that was Toby Ward. I might have got a slight glimpse of that on my own screens, but I think Toby Ward having a lot of damage. He is back out and running again. However, he is running last in your LMP3 field at the moment, off the back of the pack. And your leaders are about to find a spun GT3 down at turn number 5. I think he might be slightly off screen. He's still there now, rejoining. So yes, on the right hand side we can see as we go to a replay.
Oh dear, that's big contact with the wall for one of the Aston Martins there. Was that I can't quite tell. Yeah, it was Elijah Seville, didn't want to guess, but it was Elijah Seville there into the wall, and hopefully we'll get back to the pit lane, but that's a long road to recovery there for the driver of the 24. I wanted to wonder as well, by the way, that the leader of LMP3 AM, so another pole sitter and previous leader of this race, Dylan Banshaw, I think has been off the road, because I can see the fact that car has been into the pit lane so far today. And I wonder if that was the car maybe that went around at turn 4. We saw an LMP3 spin off the exit there and get into the gravel. Maybe that was Banshaw.
That was a 4 seconds pit stop, so you do get a fast repair, one fast repair that these drivers can use over the course of this race. I do wonder whether maybe Dallin had to go in and use that fast repair at the start. I did see a car go off down onto the pit lane, but I wasn't able to track what happened. Maybe a top off of fuel. They're going to try and cover off some of the pit strategy here, although on lap 1 I'm not really sure it's going to be worth it. He is running around in 26th at the moment. He's around, I'm just trying to work out, I think it's about 30 seconds nearly off of the lead in your LMP3 class, so lost a lot of time in that opening lap as we see the number 42 and the number 94 side by side off the corner. There's a little bit of a tap in the middle of the corner, but I'm not sure that would have made too much effect there. It's the 42 getting the move done nice and cleanly. Actually a really nice move.
There's a repass by Richard Simner, who was overtaken by Riley Phillips briefly, but has taken that position back again. So now Phillips is under a bit more pressure from Josh Boot in second place in GT4 AM, you would imagine. And all of this action, by the way, is going on before we've even hit traffic today. Surely that's going to change this race even further.
But it's not far behind. Your LMP3 leaders are already about 3 or 4 cars back as we look at them now. Nathan Moore and Herbanu, they are nose to tail going through the traffic. I actually thought Herbanu might have gone for a bit of a move at the end of the long straight there, but he did not. As we look at the number 25 machine making his way through the traffic, that is Leo Bonamine in the Booston VDS car, and a great name to see in sim racing with their pedigree they have in motorsport. But it's the leaders are nose to tail through the traffic so far. Nearly jinxed it again. I really need to stop giving commentators curse. We're only 5 minutes in.
Bonamine there was right on the gravel and going right round the outside of that Mercedes, but it's very close for the lead here. Nathan Moore is under a lot of pressure from Christophe Herbanu at the moment, and here it is. Here's the battle for the lead down in towards turn number 1 as they file their way through the first GT4 traffic of the season. This is the thickest and most difficult amount of traffic they'll have to work themselves through all season long, and it's going to be Nathan Moore who's leading them through. Down the inside of another McLaren he goes in towards turn 4. Nicely done there. Nice space given as well as we go on board with Herbanu. He looks for his way through, or at least his way to stay close to Moore in this really dangerous part of the race.
And I think Herbanu might get a run off the corner. No, I don't think he's quite close enough. Wasn't maybe brave enough to put the move in on Nathan Moore down into the corner. They're being very calculated, as I say that, as Herbanu nearly gets rear-ended. They're not taking as many risks as I maybe expected coming through the traffic. We have contact. There was contact behind second place, Christophe Herbanu with one of the GT4 cars. I believe that was indeed Riley Phillips. That was the GT4 AM leader. Phillips turned into the corner, maybe not realising that Herbanu was on his inside, and that's now dropped Herbanu back into the clutches of Adam State for P3. Maybe Nathan Moore's going to be able to get away here.
Yeah, State looking for his way through to make it a WSR Esports 1-2, but it's not happened. And every time Moore gets a little bit of an advantage, he gets caught up behind some more traffic, and he has to lose a bit more time all over again. It's happened here too. That was a big slide into the final turn there for the 4th place driver, Matt Caruana, trying to work his way past Adam State. It wasn't a good run off the final turn for Nathan Moore there particularly either, and he will duck into the slipstream, duck back out again, and now finally will clear the last of the traffic past Jeremy Royot down the inside there, and then finally Alessandro Proti for the lead. But speaking of battles for the lead, by the way, it's side by side for the lead in GT4 AM. Riley Phillips looks to have hung on this occasion, but that all started of course back at turn 9 with traffic, LMP3 traffic.
And I don't think Josh Boot was actually ahead for a period of time, but it looks as though Riley Phillips is able to take the advantage of being on the outside into turn number 1. Here's a replay of the 57 off into the wall. A little bit of an incident in traffic. I think this was a replay of lap 1 for Dallin from Sharp, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's even a fast repair there, Ewan, from looking at the contact with the wall. Another car around. I'm not sure who that is. That is indeed Mert Mendes in the 55. Obviously another issue coming through the traffic.
Lots going on out there at the moment here at Barcelona, barely a quarter of an hour into the season as we're following the GT4 AM leader getting overtaken round the outside by some LMP3s. We'll be hoping that this calms down pretty soon. A flash of the lights. Not entirely sure what he's displeased with there, but anyway, he's still leading back there. One of the tighter leading battles though is here for the overall win. Nathan Moore just ahead of Christophe Herbanu, and now all of a sudden they've got the clean air in front of them again. The top 4 have made their way through traffic quite well here, and they've gotten away from the rest of the field as a combination of pace and efficiency through traffic.
I think this has actually brought Adam State and Matt Caruana back into the lead battle here for the LMP3s. I'm not sure whether Nathan Moore really took as many advantages as he maybe could have done. I think it was a very calculated run through traffic for your LMP3 leader. As we play up on your screen a little bit more. Another spin for the 57. So unlucky in traffic. Obviously trying to make up as much time as possible back on the way. They just look to have had much impediment there. So I think with the lead battle in traffic, I think it's closed it up a little bit, Ewan. Nathan Moore maybe not taking as many risks as he could have done. However, there's still an hour and a quarter to go in this race. there's a lot more times they're going to run through the traffic. I think it was a very sensible run through traffic for Nathan Moore. Christoph Herbenou, once he lost a little bit of time towards the end, he was taking a few more risks. He went round the outside of turn 13. That wouldn't be my preferred line, especially with GT4 cars, I have to admit. But he knew he had to do it to make up the time. You know, Nathan Moore could have very easily cleared the GT4 leader going down into turn 1, but decided not to, decided it wasn't worth the risk. And that is the mark of a champion, is thinking about the long-term picture, not just making it through the next corner.
Yeah, long-term picture is what it's all about in these races that are relatively lengthy. Back to GT4 again, as Andy Schiller is on the back of a train currently headed by Sasha Engelsey, the second of two Impulse Racing drivers inside the top 5. Still not clear of LMP3 traffic just yet. The back end of it still trying to work its way through. As you can see by the numbers there, they're into the 19s and 20s of this world, so only a few to go. Doesn't make it any less dangerous though for these GT4s. They're getting past left and right, and slightly tentatively down the inside of the final turn as well, and right in front of Andy Schiller it is Emmanuel Gaxella who goes wide in the 87 Mercedes, and so Schiller will get a position, feels like a free position really, as a result of the traffic there. It's not done quite yet, the Mercedes clearly having the legs on the straight, and then Schiller will have the positioning on the way towards turn 1 to get up into 6th position in GT4 Pro. But there's an example about how it doesn't only affect LMP3s but GT4s as well.
And I think Emmanuel Gaxella may have got impeded by traffic on that final corner, forced to go the long way around, and that's what gave Andy Schiller the opportunity to put it up the inside into turn number 1. So you look at Dan Piazza, your LMP3 AM leader, who is actually under pressure from Matt Kudison behind. This is a battle for the sub-class lead here, Ewan. It looks as though really it's the closest stand battle until you get down towards the bottom of the top 10. However, I think for, at this stage in the race, they're just going to maybe potentially even try and work together, try and break away, and the fight will come later on.
Yeah. By the way, just saw in the last couple of moments Doriano Riachuti, I think, going off the road, and that was the car you might have seen at home spinning in the background at turn 4 on this lap. But there's so much going on at the moment that it's pretty difficult to catch everything. Clouds just coming over Barcelona at the moment as well, by the way, to just maybe cool the temperatures ever so slightly and keep things nice and comfortable. I think the drivers will be glad that this is one of the first rounds of the season and not later on with the temperatures that you can see around here in the late spring and summer. This is Doriano Riachuti through turn 4. It was a very long drawn out spin as he tried to get on the power as early as possible.
Very lucky not to hit that inside wall as well on the exit of the corner. It was Franchiuti, so got it back going again. A very controlled spin, I have to say, one of these LMP3 machines. He's back underway, doesn't look to have lost too much time, maybe a couple of positions. Currently running down in P14. Dan Piazza this lap in the number 56 does look to be a little bit safer in that LMP3 AM lead. He's pulled a few tenths over the number 23 in second place, so potentially seeing the 23 having a bit of a slower lap. Doesn't look like it. I wonder whether Mads has made a mistake at the opening stage of this lap.
Got a bit of support in YouTube chat for Mads Kjeldsen today. Michael Pedersen joining us, and a good evening to him, asking them to do him proud in his absence. Hopefully that sounds to me as if he might be racing later on in the season. Certainly hope so. But it's close for the LMP3 AM lead right now, and early on in qualifying actually we saw the lead being contested deep inside the top 10 and even inside the top 5 when it was the pole position taken by Dylan Vanshaw. Obviously that's gone away now, and they're fighting over 10th place overall in that leading fight in LMP3. In GT4 the leading fight is down for 9th position between Riley Phillips and Josh Boot. It does seem that in normal lap speed Phillips is a bit faster than Boot, but during the traffic Boot certainly gained a lot, and if that keeps happening then it's going to be a long and difficult race.
And I think this is also where maybe some people are going to be stronger in the traffic, some people are going to be stronger in the clean air. It's all to do with the skill set and how it's going to play out over the course of an hour and a half if we're looking at the GT4 Pro battle for the lead. These drivers haven't really span out that much over the course of the race so far, Ewan. So I think everyone may be just trying to take advantage of the draft as much as possible, and that's an LMP3 without a front end. I'm trying to see which number that is. I can see it starts with the 6 on it. It's the 66. That's Toby Ward. So Toby Ward's still running around with that damage from the first lap, obviously trying to get it to the first pit stop.
Well, that's got to be affecting him adversely. You would have thought so, but clearly it's not that bad. And to be fair, it doesn't look like he's too understeering and too lacking in the front end downforce stakes. Yeah, he seems to be running okay. That was, of course, the incident at turn 1 that we saw earlier on. This is more recently for Andy Sharp. Down in towards turn 5, a big dive down the inside, and that's exactly the kind of thing that Race Control were warning about at the start of the day. LMP3s have got to be careful making moves like that because, as you said earlier, they're entry-level prototypes, if you like, made to be easy to drive, and that means that they're not quite as manoeuvrable as you think sometimes. You certainly can't brake as late as that without locking up, and unfortunately contact was made down at turn 5.
I have to say, I think brakes is one of the weakness of these LMP3 machines, and Lee Berridge, I think he was the unfortunate party in that one. There was nothing that McLaren could do to avoid that. But when you lock the brakes up on these cars, you're a passenger. You can't do anything. You just got to ride it out and hope, one, you don't hit anything, and two, you make the corner. And I think in that case, it was unlucky. But yes, it is something that Race Control were warning about. It is something these drivers have to be mindful of. These LMP3 cars, they're built for AMs, but they're tricky little beasts, Ewan. And the brakes, I think, are one of the hardest things to get your head around.
We've had a change for the lead, by the way. Christophe Herbinot is leading the way ahead of Nathan Moore. The front 4 are actually still pretty close together, and I do wonder whether they're in the back end of traffic, which is why that lead has changed, or whether Herbinot could have just done it on merit, to be fair. Let's have another look and see how it happened. It was Nathan Moore slightly slowed up by an Aston Martin through the final corner. And Christophe Herbinot got the run out of the first turn, or the final turn, sorry, into the first one on the outside, and if you can hold it round there, of course, you'll get the inside line at the very next corner. Right round he goes, late on the brakes, pretty brave actually as well, and he takes the lead now after 20 minutes.
And Christophe Herbinot, I think that was a really well executed move for the lead in LMP3. He's already pulled a 7.5 gap, and he's done it at a crucial time, Ewan, because they're about to hit GT4 traffic again. So the cycle restarts, and for Herbinot to be ahead, can he try and use the traffic to pull a gap? I think he's going to be a little bit more aggressive than Nathan Moore was, but I think we're going to see Moore turn the aggression up for this second run through traffic.
Joop Buitenhuister is into the pit lane already. I wonder whether this is a bit too early, or whether you can do a couple of 35-minute stints to end out this race. We'll have to find that out in short order, but Joop Buitenhuister already into the pit lane in LMP3. Don't forget they've got that restriction on their fuel at 63%, which will limit them to 2 stops over the course of the race. Now then, back with the leaders again, and the 2 WSR Esports drivers are together again, and they probably won't be pleased that it's in 2nd and 3rd position, because right now Christophe Herbinot looks quicker than the both of them.
Yeah, Christophe Herbinot has pulled out a really good gap at the front of this field, and he's navigating the traffic really well. I think taking maybe a little bit more risk, but it looks to be calculated. Nathan Moore still trying to be he's very, very calculated in the traffic, using the opportunities he can, but not really pushing the boundaries too much. I think Adam stayed though behind, getting a little bit more aggressive just to try and stay with the pack. But Christophe Herbinot now, he's pulled the lead out to over a second, 1.1 second. I think it's the largest lead we've seen at the front of your field all race long.
A big flash of the lights as well from the Mercedes that was inconvenienced there. Already a bit of frustration between the 2 respective classes, but Herbinot making his way through traffic very well indeed. It's not a weakness, to be honest, that I found with Nathan Moore last season by any means. I'm not sure whether it's just a bit of bad luck that he's having here today, as Matt Caruana just in behind had a big slide through there. He's lost a lot of time as well, but it's quite clear that the front 4 are clear of the rest of the field early on here.
I think that's just something that we're going to see throughout this. I mean, the traffic giveth, traffic taketh away. Herbinot could lose it all in 2 corners. You don't know what's going to come, but it's an interesting dynamic here, and it's one that we're going to see all season long. How do people manage it?
Going to be such a season-defining factor this time around. Changes happening down in GT4, by the way. as Richard Sindler and Andy Shield are going at it again. This time a little bit further ahead of Riley Phillips, although not that much further ahead. And so that might well be frustrating the GT4 AM leader, and it probably is. Look at that. Riley Phillips driving the 94 in the lead of GT4 AM, right behind these two, Shield and Simner again. Both of them finishing in the top 5 of the point standings in this category. One season to go in 2023. They can't leave each other alone to start off 2024. Through the penultimate corner they go, almost 3 wide at a moment with one of the LMP3s as well. A great fight between these two drivers. It doesn't look quite over just yet, as Shield will look to come back again in towards turn 1.
And Nathan Moore got held up by these two fighting going through the final corner. He's now dropped 2.5 seconds behind your LMP3 lead. I don't think Andy Shield is close enough to make a challenge this time, but it's certainly an excellent effort. I think Riley Phillips is really going for it, maybe feeling like he's getting held up here, and he got a little bit more pace in that 94 machine. He has pulled away from Josh Boot by quite a margin, now about 1.5 seconds in your GT4 AM lead, so maybe feeling like he can get a little bit further up the field based on the pace. Will he use the pit stops to do that? I'm not sure. Andy Shield going for another move. Is he going to be close enough down into turn number 5? Going for the outside line. That's an interesting move, but he will get the slingshot off the corner.
Let's see, out of turn 5. Should be single file through this section. Phillips might be getting a little bit nervous about this. Josh Boot is still a couple of seconds away at this moment, looking for a way to get on terms here. Up towards the top of the hill here, and it is quite a rise over the top at turn 9, the middle of the circuit, and now down towards 10. Less of a tight and hard braking zone than it used to be, using the long, wider run through here. The more flowing final sector of this racetrack almost seems to mirror the first half of the track, to be honest, in some weird way. It's almost like this track has become symmetrical as a result. The GT4s once again have LMP3s filing past them. Meanwhile, Nathan Moore under some pressure again. Adam State is the one under pressure on this occasion. It's Matt Caruana who's looking to get onto the podium here. To the outside, much later on the brakes. Adam State there gave himself an impossibly tight line when he didn't really need to, and Matt Caruana gets through into 3rd.
Caruana now, I think he's going to start to chase after Nathan Moore. Adam State will want to stay with him so that he can stay on the podium. Clutches just to try and get back that 3rd position. Eyes back to Andy Shield now. He got held up through the final sector. He's dropped back into the clutches of Rory Phillips, and from watching Rory and the way he's been driving so far in the opening half an hour of this race, I don't think he's going to let off here, Ewan. He's going to go for a move at the moment he sees an opportunity, and there was an opportunity, but he wasn't quite close enough. Coming off the corner a little bit sideways, getting on the power, that's going to lose him some time, cost him a bit of momentum, and I think that might have saved Andy Shield from attack into turn number 5.
I think Phillips might have just decided that probably better not to fight at this moment, but it's difficult not to sometimes when Shield and Simner are fighting so difficult or so fiercely up in front of you. So still sat there waiting. Another LMP3 dives down the inside. That's the driver of the 19 car, Nick Baggerman, in 12th place overall, with Mert Menderes just in behind. They'll both file through nicely towards turn 10, although not all the way through. Be a run around the outside, which the LMP3s should manage with their heightened downforce. Now, the leading battles in overall classes are, well, petering out, it's got to say. LMP3 Pro, 2.5 seconds. 2.5 seconds in GT4 AM as well, but in LMP3 AM it's very close between Piazza and Kjellsen, who are fighting for 10th overall, but more importantly for the lead in LMP3 AM at the moment. They're right behind Julien Plumet as well in the 9th position in the pros. Also got a change in GT4 Pro. It's all happening out there at the moment as Jeremy Royot gets ahead of Alessandro Proti for the first time today.
And that's going to put the number 28 machine up into the lead of GT4. I think, to be fair, GT4 Pro, LMP3 AM, as you said, they are the closest battles on track. LMP3 Pro, it's petered out a little bit. Herbigno is on an absolute charge at the moment. He's up to 3 seconds in the lead, and there was contact coming through turn number 3 as the LMP3s made their way through traffic. It looks like everyone survived to fight another day. but it may be getting a little bit messy out there.
Absolutely was contact through turn 3. Now, this is elsewhere on the circuit, in the main part of your screen, up towards the leaders in GT4. There is the new leader, Royo, just ahead of Proti. I was literally just going to say that I think the GT4 leaders have come into an agreement where they just ride around following one another. Well, clearly that's not the case. The top 5, the front 5 are still absolutely locked together here in this class, and they're getting away from the rest of the field, but clearly they're not entirely content to sit around following one another. They do want to make overtakes, and maybe that is down to the impending pit stops, which can't be too far away.
I would not have thought so, Ewan. I think these cars are going to struggle to get to 40 minutes on the fuel loads that they are on. And I think a 40-minute stint is going to be perfect to making sure everyone has to do 3 stops. Now, do you just go for maybe a more equal pit stop? You're on lighter fuel loads when you're out on track. You may have to spend a bit longer in the pit lane. Or do you go for a full stint, and a nice splash to get to the end? Another question is going to be tyres. Are you going to take tyres at the pit stop, as we see a set of tyres being absolutely ruined on the 667, and along with the front end actually? So I think the 667 is going to be coming down onto pit lane, get that fast repair, because that has got a fair amount of damage there.
At least the pit lane is close, I suppose, but not an ideal moment there. Somebody asked me in the YouTube chat a couple of moments ago, by the way, that with the World Endurance Championship coming up this weekend for the first time, whether the pace difference between these two cars or the interaction between these two cars is similar to that of a hypercar and a GT3. I would say that the pace difference here is a little bit smaller, but I think that the main difference in terms of these two cars is certainly in high downforce corners. I think that's one of the main obvious things, and you can see that just by looking at them. But also, these LMP3s do have a little bit more power than the GT4s. I wouldn't say it's quite as extreme, though, as in the very top classes of endurance racing.
I think the interactions will still be the same as your LMP3 AM leader looks to have spun. Dan Piazza's lost it up at turn number 11, just completely on his own. Sorry, Ewan. He's got back going again. He's held on to second position, but Mats Kajsen has gone. He's 2 corners ahead, and he's going to be laughing his head off now because he has got a comfortable lead in that AM category.
Yep, so a change there in LMP3 AM, and so that leaves this battle in GT4 Pro, the closest class leading battle by quite some distance. Jeremy Royal leading the way, although the gap extends slightly here as Alessandro Proti had to be overtaken there into the penultimate corner. A little bit wider as you go down the line. Everybody getting slightly wider as you go. Timo Heiden's been moving forward here, by the way, in GT4 Pro. Now into 3rd place and pretty close to Proti, looking maybe for 2nd.
I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic. Timo Hayden, I think he's just been biding his time. Ashley Finch as well there in 4th position in the Aston Martin. They're all biding their time, looking for when they can try and make their moves. I think there's been some fuel saving going on here, Ewan. I think we're going to see some strategy play into this as well. Alessandro Proti, who's been leading this race for the majority of this stint, he's going to have burnt more fuel, and he's going to have to stop for longer, or at least pit earlier. Julien Rouleau as well, he's out front now. He's going to have the highest fuel load of the top 5 in GT4. I think 3rd through 5th, they're all going to be laughing their heads off in about 10 minutes time when they all come into the pit lane, and these 3 are going to be the first ones out.
Well, as Ben Gregory is reminding us in the YouTube chat, that fuel loads last season in LMP3 especially, which he was driving, took about 40 minutes, so maybe we are going to see them go that far, although I do find it somewhat difficult to see them going quite that long, because that's actually quite scarily close to being able to make it on just one stop, actually, 40 minutes, but we'll wait and see here. We've still not seen very many stops anyway. After more than half an hour, there's contact again. That was Ashley Finch with loads of LMP3s down the inside, and a bit of contact now on the outside there. The 48 car work its way through, another bit of contact. Dear me, these GT4s are going to get quite sick of this very quickly, because there has been a bit of contact so far, and it's inconveniencing them slightly as one of them pulls into the pit lane. In fact, probably a good idea, seeing the amount of traffic around.
And I was about to say that I think Ashley Finch has come off okay from that, but maybe potentially a little bit of damage, I'm not sure. It doesn't actually look like it on second thoughts, so it was very, very minor contact for Finch. with the LMP3s in the latter parts of that lap. So it looks as though he survived okay. The car is going to be alright. Very interesting information from Mr. Gregory as well regarding the pit stops. And that can only be one thing, Ewan. Pit lane is about to get incredibly busy.
Yes, it is, which is going to be the big point in this race 2 times over, because we are going to see 2 stops, of course. Not very many takers just yet. Tom Weston has been in LMP3. Hugh Spoemeister and Mac Mafarquhar have already been in as well. That was actually before the half hour, so they're clearly on a very different strategy here at the moment. And now out the final corner come the leaders again. Adam State doesn't know. He goes into the pit lane, although pretty much the only one of the leaders to actually do so inside the top 10. So, it does make sense. If you've got the fuel here in LMP3, I think it's a good idea to carry on. They've finally got a bit of clear air here.
I do wonder whether maybe Adam State's looking at a track map, looking at where he's going to come out and go, right, I think I might be in traffic. He does look like he's going to come out into a nice piece of clean air as he rejoins the racing circuit. He's going to have one GT4 ahead of him and about, I don't know, third of the circuit clear. So I wonder whether Adam State's maybe trying to do a bit of a strategical pit stop here, coming as we see the 65 spun ahead of him, just to try and get himself into a bit of clear air, run a few laps, get some good pace on the board and try and make up a few positions.
Now then, GT4 seemingly accepted with where they are. And so those leaders are following one another at the moment as well down the front straight. Just back at the final couple of corners now as Riley Phillips comes in. So the GT4 AM leader into the pit lane, and that means that Josh Boot has taken over the lead as well. Now replay here of something going on in towards turn number 1. This is a spin for Andy Shaw, Taco Shop Racing, and fairly innocuous one in the end, although the rejoin may be slightly questionable. Sharp gets back going again and resumes.
Oh, sorry to step over you. Ewan, the LMP3 AM leader, he's just clouted the pit lane entry wall and then absolutely destroyed the car ahead of him on pit entry. So Mads Kajsen in trouble here on pit entry. I think he's absolutely misjudged his braking point. It was one of the Boost and VDS cars. Yes, it was. It was Julien Plumet who got absolutely destroyed. That car, he definitely needs to use his fast repair. It looks as though Mads has retired from the race. I think we may see a replay on your screens.
Well, let's see what happened here. Mads Kjellson earlier on was fighting for the win in LMP3 AM. Let's see what happened here. It's a fast pit entry these days, of course. Oh, a slight slide, a straight down the wall as well. And oh no, he flies into the pit entry there. Not sure whether he's just annoyed with himself or whether he just couldn't get the car stopped in time, but that is terrible luck for those who are caught in the crossfire, and that is such a shame. Such a difficult pit entry to get onto now that we're using this faster layout.
You are exactly right, and I think Mads just got his braking a little bit wrong on pit entry, a bit too much speed, the rear stepped out from him, and then getting it slowed down for the pit speed limit line. Same story again, missed his braking point, locked up completely, tried to get it stopped as best he could, but there was nowhere to go. He was always going to be using Julien Plumet to slow his car down, and that's a massive shame for Julien, because he was running P7 in this race, having an excellent race so far, and same for Mads as well, leading the AM class as we head back to the GT4 lead.
These GT4 leaders don't seem to want to leave each other alone at the moment. Jeremy Royot leads the way still now, but can't seem to get rid of anyone. And not even some of the drivers further towards the back of this group, and not even traffic disrupting these guys. The leaders are now in. It looks like the LMP3s have reached their limit in terms of fuel. Can't see anybody going around and continuing on from here. Looks like Christophe Herbinot has taken the lead now. Has Adam State done the undercut here? He's into second place. How close can he get to the lead here?
I'm not sure. If he's on warmer tyres and Christophe Herbinot's got to get him up to temperature, there is a chance. He's within a second of the 92. So could we be seeing Adam State pulling off an undercut to take the lead of the race. I'm not sure. I don't know whether he's close enough. I think Herbano's tyres are going to come up to temperature just fast enough. I'm not sure if he did take tyres though, so I could be talking trash. Adam State had a second faster pit stop than Herbano, and he's been running really good pace since that pit stop. So I think Adam State has pulled off a blinder here to really make the most of this first pit cycle.
Oh dear me, look at this. This is GT4 Pro. Everyone try not to hit each other above anything and get into pit lane on time and get down to pit speed on time. So who's going to come out the other side at first there? It's going to be a fight for the lead in both Pro categories. I think both LMP3 and GT4. That slower car moving out of the way of these two quite nicely. So Christophe Herbano all of a sudden with some pressure that he's not been feeling for quite some time. Adam State right behind into these final couple of corners. Just using the very inside of the penultimate one especially there to maybe get a bit of a run. Oh, well, I think they both tried a bit too hard. They're both in the gravel out the final corner.
I was about to say that Adam State has lost momentum, but I think they both did out of that final corner, as you say, using the gravel on the exit. This is your GT4 lead, and we have a new leader. It's going to be... Actually, Isaacson's back in the lead. How has he managed that? Adam Isaacson's back out in front. Okay, he's 18 laps into a stint. He probably needs to make a pit stop. I think out of this group, Timo Hayden's made it out in front. Yeah,
it is. Hayden who's out first, then Alessandro Proci's got ahead of Jeremy Royot, so those positions are reversed back to how they were. Sasha Engelsey next, and then it's Ashley Finch with them as well, sort of. So they're pretty much still together, but it's a bit of a pit stop game at the moment. Hayden deciding that he wants the clean air and takes 3 seconds off of that pit stop, so presumably that's 3 seconds that he'll have to give up at these final stops. It just depends whether this clear air will give him the ability to go on and pull the advantage that he needs to still come out in the lead.
So another curveball in GT4 Pro to throw into it. The number 39 car, Akram Zuoni, he's had a 10-second pit stop here, Ewan. He's got himself back up into second position on circuit. He's 10 seconds down on Adam Isaacson, who will owe us, I think, another 2 stops. I'm not sure he can go to the end from here, unless he is massively fuel saving in that number 78 machine. Akram Zuoni might have put himself in a position here where he's going on the alternate strategy, and I like this. I like to see someone trying something different. We're going to have to wait 48 minutes to see how well it plays itself out. As you can see the last pit stop times up on your screen. Isaacson's, that will be for fast repair, and he's probably only taken enough fuel, so I think Isaacson will be down onto the pit lane in the coming laps. But Zuoni, I want to see how well this plays out, Ewan, because 10 seconds is not a long stop. He's only going to go about 5-10 laps here, I think.
Yeah. Oh, dearie me, what's going on here? 3 wide on the pit straight, very nearly 4 with LMP3 action alongside the GT4 leaders, all into turn 1 in one go, and thankfully they all make it out the other side as well. It was all very close in LMP3, especially for 7th position. It's Callum Brandt who's I think come out the other side first, then Nikolai Loft, and then Matt Caruana. So this has not turned out well for Matt Caruana, whose stop was 47 seconds long, and it's put him a long way back, and he's got a lot of recovering to do now in the second half of this race.
He does indeed, and 47 minutes to go. We're not quite at the halfway point, but there is still a long way to go. A lot can happen in 45 minutes. For those who race officials, it's a standard IMSA race pretty much to go. It's getting through. Oh my lord, 3 wide on the exit of that corner is not a good idea. I think the 69 car there deciding I'm going to take the safer option and drop back just a little bit. That's the aggressive driving in traffic that I thought we were going to see towards the end of the race. Maybe not with 47 minutes to go, but I think it's going to start to turn it up a bit.
It is. I said in GT4 Pro, Adam Isaacson is leading, but he did come in 20 laps ago, so I'm imagining he's going to have 2 stops still to do in this race, but you never know, he might be able to save the right amount of fuel. This was a huge accident through turn 3, goodness me. That is a big crash for Toby Ward, the boosted barrage car, and it looks like he's back to pit lane, and and he's back there for some time. I think he will have used his fast repair, won't he, to get a new front bumper based on what we saw from him in the first stint, so that might well be him done for the day now.
I think it may be. I think Toby has had one hit too many. He's back on pit lane, so wonder whether he's maybe getting some repairs, but that was a very big hit through turn 3. Was that an outlap, Ewan? I'm not sure, because I haven't seen it myself, but I think it could have... No, it was on lap 2, so it would have been... You know, the tyres would have been a little bit up to temperature, so my theory was maybe lost it on cold tyres, but I don't think he has. I think Toby Ward just coming unstuck in the first round of the championship.
Yeah, looks like it. So, Christoph Herbenau still leads ahead of Adam State. Then it's Nathan Moore. Jus Boymeister has gotten into first place in the LMP3 AMS, but he made a very short early stop, so that's still to be figured out. And there's Matthias Penteler, who is now inside the top 5. This is the battle for the lead in GT4 Amazon, so it's good to see that that battle is still going on. Ben Gregory telling us in YouTube chat, by the way, that everyone's always going to need 2 stops, so I'll take his word for that as LMP3 AM champion, reigning champion, and so we'll conclude that Adam Isaacson will indeed need to make a further stop from this one, but it is bizarre to see him leading again after all that's gone on so far to him so far today. And Akram Tsunune as well came in at the same time as everyone else, but was in for 25 or so seconds shorter, so that's how he's in the lead. Wouldn't know what that strategy is going to do for him for the remainder of the day.
I'm not sure we're going to see him up the absolute front of the field come the end of the race. However, the low fuel load now could work out. It is getting later on in the day. The track temperature is slowly creeping down. We're down to 26 Celsius. We were about 27 on the race start, so maybe take advantage of it. I'm not sure. It's an interesting strategy. He will, however, have potential fresher tyres for the end of the race. So I think that's going to be, you know, it's something I think we're going to see over the course of the race. It's going to play out, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Akram Zuoni, though, he is being overtaken by Timo Hayden. He's dropped back into the clutches of Hayden. Oh, the lead. Yes, Adam State going for the lead. He's got it up the inside. Beautiful move by the 18.
Round the outside through turn 10. Getting the inside again at turn 12. Adam State takes the lead as we get into the second half of the opening round in the World Sports Car Championship for Season 2. Great overtake by Adam State, and Christoph Herbenau now is going to have to try and respond. Out of the final corner, it's not a bad run at all, and we might well see the response come immediately here in towards turn 1 on the very next lap. He'll close in to just under 2 tenths behind the WSR driver, and he'll go for it. He looks up the inside, tentatively so, but he can't work his way all the way past, and so has to stay and settle for second position at the moment.
I wonder whether Adam State's just found a little bit in that 18 machine that's going to allow him to get away. We're back into traffic for the LMP3 leaders. I think this is going to be an interesting one. Herbenau maybe is potentially the more aggressive driver in traffic. He can make the most of the opportunities available to him, but do not count out Adam State. He is incredibly fast in that 18 WSR esports machine. In the bottom right corner, I've been keeping an eye on this. This is Timo Hayden and Akram Zuone, as Adam Isaacson in this lead of GT4 is down onto pit lane. Zuone has put up an absolutely stout defence here. Hayden can't get past. He's tried 4 or 5 times this lap, and the 39 BMW has been like a 400 metre wide tank, Ewan. Timo can't get past.
Doesn't look like it. Here we go. Very close to the lead there for Christoph Herbenau as he looked to the inside for the lead in the main part of your screen, and then the battle for second place, now first place actually, because Adam Isaacson is into the pit lane. On the small part of your screen, Hayden needs to work his way through quickly, and he's starting to use the bumper as a result, but it may not matter. The chasers are onto him already here. Hayden's down the inside, going into turn 4, and it looks like he should find his way now through onto Nune. Finally, Timo Hayden leads the race, and he'll defend quite fiercely into turn 5. Big slide for Zanune, and the Mercedes have to scatter behind. It's Jeremy Royaux who's going to work his way through first. Alessandro Proti slowed down, and so Sasser Engelsey will get down the inside, not only for 4th place, but for 3rd as well.
And Zuone put up an absolutely stout defence for Timo Hayden, but didn't really make it that difficult for the cars behind. Hayden's going to be absolutely kicking himself, because all that advantage from the pit sequence has pretty much gone He has 1.25 seconds over Jeremy Rouleau at the moment, and I think that's going to disappear. The draft is going to come back into effect for the number 28 machine, but this is now for the lead in GT4. As I said, Isaacson has come down onto the pit lane for his second pit stop of the race, and his current position is going to be more relative as to where he is currently in the standings. At the front of your field, Adam State is almost checked out. He's gone a second into the distance. Herbigno is falling back into the clutches of Nathan Moore. However, there is one car missing from this lead battle, Ewan, and that is the car of Matt Kurana. He had a 47-second pit stop. I think he's had a penalty on pit entry.
Yeah, I guess it would have been speeding. He's just passed Nikolai Lofton, Callum Brandt, by the way, both of whom are still fighting for 8th place, and this is that fight. Down the inside again from Callum Brandt on this occasion. Oh, careful. That was close, very close to contact, and Nikolai Loft does a very good job to hang around the outside and stay ahead on this occasion. And so Callum Brandt has to settle for 8th position in class and 9th overall. Mention it's at 9th overall because Just Boymeister has made a very short opening stop, actually about half a length of a normal regular pit stop for most of the drivers, and so that's got the LMP3 AM leader 15-second lead first of all, but it's got him into 4th place overall as well. But how much time is he going to give up in this second pit stop phase?
I'm not sure. I think it's something that we're going to have to see. It's going to be an interesting one, this second pit stop phase, because it's going to be more of a splash and dash. Everyone's going to take the fuel they need. We've seen some strategies, say Timo Hayden taking a little bit less at this first pit stop. He's going to have to take a little bit more at the second pit stop. He's on his own, he's not going to be able to save as much fuel. It's an interesting dynamic, especially where you've got to put 2 pit stops into a race, and that's why I love this format, because I think it gets the drivers thinking, Ewan. And we're going to see this especially more as rain comes into the service on iRacing, as it gets expanded in the number of cars. We probably won't see it for these cars throughout this season. It's not going to be in the initial offering that's going to be added in the coming weeks. So it's going to be very interesting to see how drivers change their mindset as well towards strategy, because for people who have been on the service for a long time, not a lot has really changed where they've had to change their thinking. Having rain is going to completely revolutionise this. We could be sitting here in 6-8 months' time, you and going, right, well, we're going to have to make 2 stops, but could it be 3? Could we get a rain shower in 20 minutes' time? And I think that's something that the drivers are going to have to adapt to so well.
It's very soon now, of course, as we all know. Just less than 40 minutes to go in this race as well, which is coming to an end pretty soon. Unfortunately, the opening round of the World Sportscar Championship has been a good one so far. And in terms of stuff still to be settled, there's so much of it in and around this circuit. Riley Phillips only half a second ahead of Josh Boot in GT4 AM. GT4 Pro pit strategy to figure out. Timo Hayden with a slightly unrealistic race lead, or an unfiltered race lead if you like. The pit stops quite yet to figure themselves out. Same in LMP3 AM. The gap not realistically that long between the top 2 of Boymeister and McFarquhar. And then Adam State and Christoph Herbigno still embroiled in a battle for the lead in LMP3 Pro as well, and of course the overall win there too. Down the inside goes one of the LMP3s as we continue to watch this battle. It's the Mercedes of Lee King McGee just ahead of Lee Berridge, fighting for 3rd place in GT4 AM. Very close between the two on the way down towards the next left-hander, and through goes the McLaren. So Lee Berridge, Lee Berridge gets through into 3rd position in GT4 AM. These guys, though, a good 13.5 seconds off of the leading battle. Unfortunately for them, I guess the good thing for Lee King McGee especially is that he's recovered from a fairly difficult race so far. As long as he can make this race on one more stop, then he could still be right in there for a good result.
And Lee King McGee, of course, obviously every point will count, currently running 10th in the GT4 class when you look at the combined standings. Every point's going to count for this, Ewan. Just if you have a bad race, just get back on it and try and make the best of it as you can. Your eyes are back on the LMP3 Pro lead. I said Adam State had checked out and he got a second lead. He actually got it up to nearly 2 seconds, but traffic has taketh away. And Christoph Herbigno all of a sudden back on the rear bumper of the 18, And I think we're going to have another fight for the lead on our hands.
Let's see. Well, it's never really gone away, has it really? Between Adam State and Christophe Herbinot. It's been a good fight between the two of them. We're still pretty early on in this second stint, and so a long way away from finding out who's actually going to win here, but State has really made his claim for the race lead, and Nathan Moore, bizarrely, after doing so well early on, is 4 seconds away from these guys, and ever since we hit traffic, to be honest, it's just not been quite as quick as the others around, including Matt Caruana actually, although he's a long way back now as a result of that penalty.
I think Matt Caruana, he's got some recovering to do, and I'm sure he will do it. He's back up to P7. He's only actually down one position on where he started this race, so I have no doubt that he'll get himself back up towards the top 5, I think. I think 4th could be a good target for Matt Caruana. He's still got to overtake 4 cars and make up 10 seconds, however. I think it is possible. Christophe Herbinot this time not looking for a move. Don't think he was close enough as we go and look at the number 83 machine.
Yeah, this is back again to the final spots inside the podium places of GT4 AM, involving the reigning champion Lee Berridge, of course, who did get through actually into 3rd briefly, but is clearly not there anymore. Now, Jus Boymeister is in LMP3 AM, so based on what we saw in the first stint, he should be able to make it to the end, but it is bizarre that he's making his final stop with 35 minutes to go. I think the one disadvantage he's got with this strategy is his tyres are going to be quite a lot older than everyone else's. They might well put some new ones on, whereas he might well not, or well, he won't be anymore. He's 35 minutes from the end, so could be quite a long stint to the end for Boymeister, as we'll go on board with Christophe Herbinot, now 2 seconds behind Adam State, very nearly.
There was a mistake by Christophe Herbinot down at turn number 7. We're going to have a replay coming up on your screens very shortly of this incident, but already he's made up 3/10 on the time he lost, even with dirty tyres. Going back to the pit stop that has just happened, Baumeister was about 20 laps into his stint, Ewan, so I wonder whether he'd feel that. Here's the replay on your screens, as we can see Herbinot just snapped mid-corner. It looked really weird. It was almost as if the car didn't quite grip up in the draft, Ewan, and I think it caught Christophe by surprise. An excellent save, ran it through the gravel, tried to avoid that curb. As we've seen, the curbs can be evil here. Sausage dog curbs are evil at all circuits, especially here, as we've seen today.
Yeah, we have. So, yeah, just looked like a lack of grip, really. And that's created a real gap at the front. And Matt Caruana trying to close some gaps at the moment himself here. He's now at 6th, just behind Leo Bonneman in 5th position. So, maybe 4 places on the cars for Matt Caruana, because not too far away from him, not too far in front of him. Here's Andy Sharp into turn 1. Also struggling again. I think we saw him earlier struggling through this corner, didn't we? And he's outside of turn 2 on this occasion, has to rejoin again from the gravel, clearly having problems with that first couple of corners.
Unfortunately, not the first time we've seen Mr. Sharp on our replay machine today, so hopefully he can gather it up for the final half an hour of this race. Eyes onto the connecting racing machine here, and looking like another battle's going to be forming in LMP3 towards the rear end of your field. And this is the thing, Ewan, we get battles up and down the circuit. Nicholas Siats we were looking at in LMP3 AM, and he's actually in a fight with Salaputis in the 26. No. Oh dear, that looked Sharp. Big.
Sharp again, who looks like he's been off the road, and that might well be his final contribution to the race this evening, because he's returned to the pit lane and may not return, unfortunately. This is a replay of what happened into turn 1. Is this a different incident, is it? Oh, it is. So oh no, he's been hit in the rear by someone coming through. So that was a separate incident initially in towards turn 1, a corner that he's been having real problems with, and that car in the background just didn't know where to go.
And that car was Dallin Van Schaar, another car we've seen have issues all race long, and I think that's going to be Dallin's race over as well. I did wonder if they were both involved in that, as the tow times are almost identical. We're going to see a replay on board with Dallin coming down into turn number 1. I'm not really sure, there's not a lot the 57 could have done. You can see the car spinning off ahead. The tyre smoke, yeah, it's just poor rejoin maybe from Mr. Sharp. Dallin had nowhere to go, I think. It's so unlucky for both of them. A minor mistake can lead to race-ending incidents.
It seemed like barely a rejoin. It seemed like he was still gathering the car up at the time, to be honest. I don't know. We'll see how that was judged at the end, but no, it certainly wasn't a lot that Van Schaik could have done, but at least the pace is there, and that's the positive you can take from this race. That's not positive, though. That's a trip through the gravel, I'm afraid, for one of the LMP3's just been riding on board there with Nicholas Geertz in the 689. What is it with these three numbers here today? Unbelievable. He drops down behind... Salapucci's dropped behind Nicholas Geertz. Then there's Mac Farquhar, who's actually made his final stop already. So has Joost Boomeister, who we spoke about earlier on. But that was another trip through the gravel through the final corner on that occasion. And another position lost as we go back up to second place. Nathan Moore has caught Christophe Herbinot.
I wonder whether Christophe Herbinot's tyres are starting to drop off at the end of this stint. Maybe didn't take tyres in the first stop. He's going to be... No, he must have done, because I don't think the second stop's going to be long enough as we see a slow GT4 to the outside of turn number 4. And yeah, I just wonder whether Herbinot's dropped off the pace a little bit. Adam States obviously found something in that WSR Esports. He's starting to settle into the groove as we ride on board with Sasha Anglesey. And actually, I was just looking at the standings for GT4 Pro. Timo Hayden has checked out. He knows he needs an advantage coming into this final stop because he's got to take more fuel. He's got 3 seconds at the head of this field, and Jeremy Rouleau really hasn't had a lot to answer. He's just been running in second, and I do wonder whether Sasha Anglesey will start to get a bit frustrated and want to go for a move on the Frenchman.
Well, we might well wait till the last stint of this race when Hayden's made a slightly longer stop and all of this is slightly more figured out, but for the moment we still don't really know where that battle in GT4 is going to go. Currently riding on board with Sasha Anglesey here, looking at the back of Royo in the 28 car just up ahead, getting passed by some LMP3 traffic just behind us here actually as we're on board. Alessandro Proti is here. I do think the leading gap though, in the leading battle has come down to probably the front 4 now. Ashley Finch wasn't able to stay with these guys after the stop, and Emmanuel Garcia is actually in 5th position now with a 4-second gap back there, so it's probably between the front 4 to try and decide a opening round winner in GT4 Pro.
This is kind of turning into a bit of a, I was about to say Tour de France, but we're in Spain, so I'm going to say Vuelta a España situation where we've got a breakaway at the front, which is obviously Timo Hayden, and a bit of a peloton forming up through 2nd through 4th. So, you know, the cycling analogy is coming in very handy here, but I think this is going to be important. If these 3 can work together, they can close the gap to Timo. We know Timo's going to need a longer stop as well. I would say around 3 seconds. I think it's going to be tight on pit exit here, Ewan, once we come round to the 2nd round of pit stops. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I don't know whether Timo's going to have enough, whether we're going to have a 4-car pack running to the finish.
Seen in the YouTube chat, by the way, we've had word through from Dallin Van Schaik, who said there wasn't much that he could do about that incident just there. He thought that Andy Sharp would end up on the outside of the corner, so he went to the normal racing line on the inside, but it turned out he was there by the time he'd arrived and there was no chance of him reacting. So unfortunately that looks like it's the end of the day for Van Schaik at the moment, and that's big damage, I'm afraid, for him. Speaking of people who are down in pit lane, by the way, and permanently so as well, Andy Scheel is stuck down there at the moment too after having some problems, but he seems to be out of the race as well at this stage of the race. Oh dear, one of the LMP3s off in the background as well, down there through turn 5. Don't know what else is going on down there, but we've got a battle for the race lead again. Adam State has lost a lot of time here in short order. Christophe Herbinot has caught, and he's very nearly brought Nathan Moore with him, although just under 2 seconds behind.
And Christophe Herbinot did look for a move down into turn at number 1. He couldn't make it work. I was watching these two as I saw Adam State had lost a lot of time in traffic, but it looks as though Herbinot has managed to get back onto it. This is the to and fro of traffic. This is what I love as we see Nick Bagaman off into the gravel in the number 19. He's managed to recover it safely with minimal time loss. And another spin. Adam Hedgecock in the 13. That'll be a new front clip required on his car on that Ligier JSP 320. So, a little bit of the rustiness maybe getting towards the end of this race, Ewan. People are starting to get a bit more aggressive, a bit tired as well. It's late in the evening here in Europe. I think, if people have had a long day, maybe the long race is starting to take the effect on them.
Yep, there is a bit of interesting work because Anglesey there by bump drafting Royaux is actually catching Timo Hayden, which is the teammate of Sasha Anglesey. Interesting to see the cooperation happening there. I would have thought that Anglesey would try and cause as much carnage between these three
I don't mean to
as
skip
much as
over you,
possible.
but we've got Christophe Herbeno going for the race lead in LMP3. Adam State got absolutely screwed over by traffic coming through the final corner. Herbeno's got the advantage going down into turn 1, but State's got the outside. This is going to give him the inside for turn number 2, but he can't do it. Herbeno's back into the race lead in LMP3.
Well, that gap has come down overall very suddenly, and Christophe Herbeno has gotten through pretty suddenly there too. Now, the GT4 leaders are going to be overtaken by those guys pretty soon. We're going to see both leading battles on the circuit together very shortly, and that is going to be a real treat. But Christophe Herbeno now leads again ahead of Adam State and ahead of Nathan Moore now as well. The three of them are nearly 30 seconds, nearly half a minute ahead of the rest of the field, but it's between those guys to find it out for the race win, you would imagine.
I wouldn't disagree with you there. I think the top 3 in LMP3 Pro are going to be the ones who are going to be fighting for the overall honours, unless we see an absolute catastrophe for these 3 drivers. However, the way they've been driving, I cannot see that happening. Adam State potentially looking at a bit of a move back on Christophe Herbeno. I think Herbeno's got the advantage heading down into turn 10 at this time. Your top 3 now, they're covered by less than half a second really here, you, and especially as we come towards these pit stops, if they can all, has Nathan Moore maybe saved a bit more fuel? You don't know what's going on inside these cars, what the situation might be in 10 laps time. Only 15 laps left in this race really, if we're running to the time that we are. And I think it's just going to be an interesting dynamic, see how it plays out. Could we see Moore and State working together? This is the teammate dynamic I was talking about at the start of the broadcast. Could we see some strategy play off with the 2 teammates, work together and go for the undercut?
Well, what about teammates in GT4? It's the WSR Esports car right in front of them at the moment, one of the Aston Martins. They're going to have to work their way right round the outside on this occasion. All 3 of them do. It's a bit wider at turn 3. You can work your way around there without risking hitting anyone. Down into 4 they go now. 3 just following one another, to be honest. Under 25 minutes to go, and look at that, the bottom right hand side of your screen as well. We are about to have these 2 leading battles right together, and once again Anglesey looks like the raciest actually of the GT4 Pro leaders.
I just wonder whether Anglesey wants to try and get past before the pit stops, but can't quite make the move work on Jeremy Roux as Adam State's made an advantage a mistake behind. Nathan Moore maybe getting a bit of an advantage off the corner. I think that was the sausage dog curb biting once again. This is going to be interesting here as well. Christophe Herbeno has cleared the traffic, and so will Adam State actually. Could Finch Anglesey maybe advantage off this as well? I don't think so. They both had to go the long way around the outside of the corner. Both Rouleau and Anglesey are going to be disadvantaged there. So that was your overall lead in both classes, all together on track, all fighting for the top 3 positions. I just think it's gonna be a very interesting end to the race. However, this fighting in GT4 is letting Timo Hayden get away, and I think he's starting to get to the point where he might have the advantage he needs to get out ahead with that slightly longer stop required on the final pit stop.
Yeah, I think so, but also you've got to remember, I think that he might have lower fuel on board at the moment because he didn't quite take as much throughout that last pit stop, so maybe that's benefiting him at the moment, and not only is he going to lose time with the fill, but also he'll lose time because he's going to have to pit first. He'll be a bit more full of fuel when he emerges from the pit lane, whereas those left out there will be low on fuel, able to go a bit quicker than him, so maybe it will even out eventually as they go through, as Anglesey actually gets to second. So it's an Impulse Racing 1 and 2 now in GT4 as Sasha Anglesey makes it a 1-2 ahead now of Jeremy Roux, who's been overtaken, and then it's Alessandro Proti 4th place, but there it is. Anglesey's looked very racy actually here, and now up to second here.
And I think Rouleau, maybe he's just taken a little bit too much out of those tyres. He's dropping back a bit. Sasha Anglesey, he's starting to get away. Maybe the impulse cars, we're going to see it towards the end of this race as we head to the battle for the lead in GT4. I'm actually Riley Phillips and Josh Booth back together once again. The 606 and the 94. Again, this is going to be a very interesting battle to see how this plays out. Both on very similar strategies. Riley Phillips actually slightly longer on this second stint by a couple of laps. We pitted a couple of laps before Josh Boot, so I'd expect to see him down onto the lane earlier. Actually, also with a longer stop. So it's all starting to close up again. Timo Hayden's still got the advantage in GT4 Pro. Every other class, actually, the battle for the lead is incredibly close, Ewan, within 2 seconds.
It's remarkable, really. Although the LMP3 AM battle, I've got to say, slightly unrealistic. Jost Böhmeister is leading the way by quite some distance, and that should remain the case as well. Petter Herschel still has to come in from second. The first of those in LMP3 AM who doesn't still have to stop is 12 seconds behind Böhmeister, so it looks like we might have our first settled leading battle, but the other three certainly are very close indeed, and that's very encouraging for the rest of the season. I think in the season last time around where only one of the championships was really a title fight right to the very end, this is a very pleasing one because we've got 3 close battles in class, and LMP3AM may well be a bit closer as well over the coming rounds as well, so it's an encouraging first round for the neutral in that it's close everywhere.
And you are exactly right. That's going to transpire through the rest of the season for sure. You know, I don't think I've seen a lead. You know, I think Timo Hayden's lead at the front of GT4 Pro is the largest I've seen all race. Yes, Christoph Herbenau's pulled it out over the last couple of laps, but I'm watching Adam State at the moment, and that is all through traffic. As actually, Adam State from P2, he's into the pits. The pit stop cycle starts. He's going to go for his undercut once again. Now, this worked on the first time round, Ewan, and he gained a lot of time. I do worry he's going to need a little bit more fuel, and I don't know what effect this is going to have, whether he's actually going to come out behind and the pace advantage is going to be worth it.
Well, it's going to be interesting. It depends really whether the time was made up just because he was quicker as he came out the pit lane, or whether it was because he took on less fuel, but we'll wait and see. He's going to take some tyres here for the final 20 minutes, and so that should be interesting. See how that pans out towards the end. Mac Caruana also comes in, by the way, leaving the leaders out there on their own, separated by 2.5 seconds. This is the lead in GT4. It's Timo Hayden ahead of these guys, but Sasha Anglesey just ahead of Jeremy Royal, and then Alessandro Proti. Still difficult to know which way this one's going to go, but Hayden has now doubled his advantage over the rest to 6 seconds when he only gained 3 in the pit stop. So you do the maths, he might be able to come out in the lead here.
And I think he's going to lose 3 seconds in the next pit stop, so it's still going to give him a net advantage of 3 seconds at the lead of this race. He's clearly got some excellent pace in that 96 machine, so I'm not sure. I think Timo Hayden may be looking in a very comfortable position. I'm not going to say it's sealed, though, because that is tempting fate, and we all know how commentators' curses go in this business. So Timo Hayden doing an excellent job at the head of your GT4 Pro field.
Yeah. So, the battle in the LMP3 AM is slightly distracting me at the moment, even though it's unrealistic because they're not actually going to be like that at the end of the race. It is slightly unusual, and we're still seeing them swap positions fairly regularly there. Jost Böhmeister now ahead of Petter Herschel again out there on the circuit. 17.5 minutes to go. Christoph Herbenau has gained quite a lot of time now on Nathan Moore. It was 9 tenths on the last lap, and it's now up to nearly 4 seconds. I reckon by the end of this next one, he will have gained even more as one of the WSR Esports LMP3s works their way past the GT4s we've just been following. I'm going to guess that's Adam State, who's just made a pit stop there, but we're now waiting for the big moment, really. Waiting for those final stops in LMP3 Pro, waiting for them to start in GT4, although they have in GT4 AM, because Josh Boot is now left there out in front on his own. Lee Berridge is now second, and all the way down in 5th position is Riley Phillips, who's made the last pit stop of that car's race.
So 20-second pit stop for Riley Phillips. Looks as though he's one of the first. It looks to be around what we're going to see. Emmanuel Gaxella has made a 19.9 second stop. So I think it's about a 20-second stop at this stage of the race is going to be acceptable for GT4. Peter Herschel from second position in LMP3 AM is also down on to pit lane. So Dan Piazza, the early leader in that subclass, is going to regain second position. However, he does not actually owe us a pit stop in this, I think. So that is second place for Piazza on the road as we stand. Christoph Herbeno down onto the pit lane. Now this is going to be interesting, Ewan. Adam State is coming into turn 10. He did a 21.8 second stop, 40 seconds spent on the lane. What is Christoph going to do here?
This is the important moment of the race. Christoph Herbeno into the pit lane. This is the rejoin that will decide the race. Adam State in 5th position at the moment will of course be back out to the leader all over again here. No tyres taken by Christoph Herbeno. He's already out and rolling again, and he does have quite the advantage by the looks of things over Adam State here. Don't know where he is out there on the circuit. He's only 27 seconds behind Herbeno, that much is clear, but he's nearly 15 seconds out of Adam State. There is the pursuer. Look at the gap here. That is a very big gap for just 15 minutes to go.
It's a second a lap, really, and I'm not sure whether Adam State's going to have it in him. He's got the new tyres. I wonder whether it's a bit of a risk. He knows that he's going to be comfortable in third. Of course, Matthias Pentila, currently in third position, is still to make his final stop. But Christoph Herbeno did not take tyres. That was a fuel-only stop. Whether Nathan Moore will follow, I am not sure. This could be an interesting strategy call from Adam State. We're going to have to keep an eye on the lap times. His last lap was a 37.8, but Nathan Moore did a 36.8, so he's lost a second, really, on the leaders, as Nathan Moore is now down onto the pit lane from your overall lead.
Well, this has been quite bizarre. Nathan Moore now into the pit lane. Surely he's going to do the same. Surely Nathan Moore's going to be in second place. There's no way Adam State gets ahead of him here, surely.
I'm not sure. I'm going to keep an eye on the pit stop time, because I'll be, the time will be able to tell whether Nathan Moore has taken the tyres or not. I do wonder also whether Adam State, the amount of fuel he had to take, it was worth taking the tyres. It was worth taking. You see Nathan Moore, 12-second pit stop, and I think it's going to be side by side. Christoph Herbeno actually out into the lead of the motor race, and yeah, Nathan Moore, he's dropped a couple of seconds behind. Adam State's only just coming onto the main straight. They've got a straight advantage over P3.
Well, Nathan Moore does know what it takes to win in this championship, of course. He was the only other driver, apart from Jürgen Frank, to win a single race in the World Sports Car Championship last season. And so there is the gap, just under 2 seconds. Adam State is out of this, surely. His last lap was a 38.0 from what I can see, but even that wasn't very quick, to be honest, compared to where he could be and where he probably needs to be if he's trying to close in on the leading two. So that's sorted in LMP3, although the battle may well resume. Timo Hayden and Ashley Fincher into the pit lane, so it's the big moment in GT4, although we've still got probably a couple of laps to wait for the others to come into pit lane. Hayden now finally having to make his stop.
Timo Hayden running a 20-lap stint there by the looks of things. He's to 15.7 seconds stationary in his pit box. He's back out and running. He's 5th position overall. The only car between him and the leading three is Josh Boot, your leading AM driver in the 606, who's still yet to stop. So Timo Hayden is out in front of those on the strategy that he is on. Now it's going to be very interesting to see when Anglesey, Rouleau and Puoti come down onto the lane to make their final stop, because that is going to be the crucial part, especially for Timo Hayden. Has he done enough? He's going to need a longer stop because he's had to probably go a couple laps longer on the fuel. Is it going to be enough to keep that lead and have enough vantage to hold them off in the final stage of this race?
Well, this is the battle for 4th position as Matt Caruana tries to work his way through on Leo Bonamant. The two of them have made their final stops here. Caruana looking to recover and rescue a 4th position. That was a late dive on one of the GT4s, and Caruana decides to hang back there, probably sensibly so as well. But down towards turn 1 they go. Matt Caruana won't be able to make a move on this occasion. It's been very much a recovery drive from him today, to be honest, as he's been working his way through the field. That penalty has really done for him, but he could have been involved in the leading three, to be honest, if he'd avoided that.
I think the pace was there to be involved with the battle for the podium for Matt Caruana. You know, speeding penalties are so easy to pick up. It's one of those things where a mistimed braking point by half a second can mean the difference between a good pit entry or a bad. It just wasn't enough. In other news, Ewan, GT4 leaders are down onto pit lane. Jeremy Rouleau has pitted, and Timo Heiden's actually out in front by the looks of things by quite a way, in fact. Alessandro Puotti, the only one to continue to go that extra lap in the 61.
We're missing Anglesey as well. Sasha Anglesey is way down.
Oh, no, he's towed. That's a tow for Anglesey.
Wow. So Anglesey is towed, and that leaves Anglesey out of contention entirely. Puotti hasn't made the stop yet. Hayden's well out in front of Jeremy Royal there, who only had a 1 second shorter pit stop in the end. So it's all going on in GT4. Surely that means with Puotti still to stop, he's going to be miles behind Timo Hayden as well, who's surely going to be on his way to a race win here.
Anglesey's tow was because of contact on pit entry. We're going to see a replay up on your screen here, and it looks as though he's come through the second to last corner. He's going to be looking to get across. Nick Baggerman has gone for the inside. Bang! There's the LMP3 car. And Steve Anglesey, or Sasha Anglesey, had nowhere to go. He obviously will not have the fuel to do another lap, as we see another vantage point here. Yes, it's just Anglesey trying to get across. Maybe we hadn't signalled to the LMP3 behind that he was coming down onto the lane. That is why Sasha Anglesey is now out of this race. Alessandro Puoto is down onto the pit lane, but Timo Hayden has an advantage at the front of the field. As I predicted, it's about 3 seconds.
Yeah, Timo Hayden is going to get onto the front straight then, and should be able to take the GT4 Pro lead here. Puotti still hasn't finished the stop. Now does. This might be a bit closer actually than the one with Bruno. Will Timo Hayden still get out in front? Yes, but not by very much. Puotti there is only a couple of seconds behind. He's going to be ahead of Rouleau here. He's going to be ahead of Adam Isaacson as well, who maybe has one more stop to go, but there is Isaacson on the outside and does indeed take second place, in fact. So Puotti will be on the podium at the very least.
Yeah, I'm not sure Isaacson's going to have the fuel to get to the end here. He's 18 laps into a stint with 7 laps to go, and I'm not sure with 9 minutes to go. I'm not sure he's got enough fuel in that car. If he has, that would be an incredible recovery drive from what we saw happen to the Sim RC driver at the start of this race. But Timo Hayden's got that perfect. He's got a 4 second advantage over Isaacson at the front of your field. Puotti has come out running with Isaacson. He's got another 5 seconds over Jeremy Rouleau. So I think, I was expecting the GT4 field to be much closer after that pit cycle, Ewan. Actually, they've fanned themselves out quite considerably.
They really have. In fact, that's the case up and down the field here. To be honest, closest battle in LMP3 is easily that one for 4th position. It's a very interesting one indeed, with Leo Bonneman, Matt Caruana and Matthias Penttila all fighting together. There they are, making their way towards turn 5. In GT4 AM, Josh Boot has found himself way ahead of Riley Phillips by the 6 second margin, so that seems to be settled as well. So it seems that after the first round of pit stops, everything stayed very close in all of the leading battles actually, but the same can't quite be said towards the final 10 minutes here, and each leader holds a small but relatively comfortable margin over their chasers as things stand.
I think this is where we've seen all the different strategies play themselves out over the course of the race, Ewan, where different drivers have different approaches, different fuel-saving approaches as well, I think is an important aspect to look at here. Alessandro Puotti, he had a 12-second pit stop. As far as I can see from my timing screen, that's the fastest pit stop in GT4 of this pit cycle. So that's probably where he's got the advantage over Jeremy Rouleau from, because himself and Timo Hayden had very similar pit stop times. Same with Ashley Finch, around the 15-second mark for the pit stop time. So this is where it was important, as we see Leo Bonneman actually setting a new fastest lap of the race. He's still ahead of Matt Caruana in the LMP3 field. I'm sure we'll come back to that in just a little bit. But as you were saying, this is the strategy playing itself out. And actually, we usually see this on races where we get splash and dashes. The last 6-7 minutes, it's very much a case of, okay, this is the picture that we've been looking for all race, but maybe hadn't quite seen it coming. As commentators, we don't have all the information, so we can see the lap times, we can see the pit stop times, we can make an educated guess based on experience, but we don't know what these drivers are doing to really get the most out of these cars.
No, certainly not. There's Hughes Poinmost at 7 seconds out in front, and as long as he's got the fuel to go to the end, which you'd imagine that he does, he will be a race winner in LMP3 AM, getting his title charge off to a pretty good start here this season. Still got 6 minutes to negotiate here at Barcelona, just over a minute and a half laps around here. Beamister is about a minute off the race lead at the moment, so there could well be 4 laps to go, maybe 5 laps to go at the line for the car we're following at the moment, somewhere around there. Still plenty of laps for these fights to settle themselves out, or some of them anyway. This is the one back for 4th place again. They've got rid of Matthias Penteler, who couldn't stay with them. He pitted the latest of the 3 actually, but he's down in 6th place and looks like he's going to stay there. The question now remains, can Matt Caruana get to 4th place by the end?
Matt Caruana looks to have dropped back a little bit from Leo Bonamine, and we know that Bonamine is running good pace in that Booston VDS25 machine, having set the fastest lap of the race. Not by much, I should add. It's by hundreds, but he set the fastest lap of the race. Last time around, running a little bit faster, maybe. No, I think the 2 drivers, they're matching each other on lap times. I'm not sure whether Caruana's got it in the bag at the moment to push for that 4th position. He's over a second behind. However, it's not over until it's over. 5 minutes to go in this race, and traffic, as we have seen, is a massive, massive influence today, Ewan. We have seen it at the front of the field in LMP3, going back and forth, and that's all been due to traffic. The driver will gain 3 seconds and lose it all on the next lap.
Adam Isaacson is still second here. At what point do we begin to believe that maybe he can go to the end here? This is the end of lap number 21 of the stint. Surely he's going to run out of fuel before the end.
He's on his 21st lap of the stint, so I'm not sure. Leo Bonamine spun. I've just seen it on my track map. He's dropped down to 5th position. Matt Caruana's got up into 4th. I'm not sure what's happened there.
Yeah, it's in the background of that shot. It was into turn 10.
Yes, it was actually. I was looking at my timing screen on my track map when that happened. So we can actually see him in the background of your shot now. You'll see him. There we go. There's Adam Isaacson coming down onto the pit lane. He was 3 laps short, Ewan. That has to be absolutely gut-wrenching, knowing that he was in 2nd position at the time.
I think pretty much we can deduce from that 3 laps short, or maybe 4 laps short, from making it the entire race on 1 stop. Because don't forget, he had his issue on the end of lap 1, and then of course he was at the final corner, so he had to do a whole lap. So he came in at the end of lap 2 from memory, and that effectively means that that these guys were 4 laps short of making it on just 1 stop here today. I wonder whether that puts a thought into the minds of any of these drivers, especially going to more tighter and twistier circuits like maybe Road Atlanta or Mugello later this season.
I think Road Atlanta, I think that's the best case there is for only making sort of 1 pit stop and really extending the fuel stops as far as they can. However, the drivers have to consider it's written into the rules they have to do 2 pit stops. If you do not do the 2 pit stops, the admin team will use the rule book against you. I've seen it happen before in other WSR Esports championships. As one of my teammates will very famously remember, where we hired him after getting him disqualified for breaking the pit stop rules from the World GT race. So the admins are very onto that. They want to see everyone making 2 pit stops, but it also shows you how flexible the strategy can be. You can take so many different approaches to this race. Maybe not here, I don't think it's as applicable, but some circuits we could see some very out there strategy. We have seen it today. Some people have tried the short middle stint. It clearly has some effect. Akram Zohoni running down in 12th position overall in GT4 now, so whether it's had the effect he wanted, I'm not sure. I'm interested to see how people evolve their strategy over the course of the season.
I think that's the idea as well, isn't it? That you're supposed to make 2 stops. That's the idea of limiting the fuel that we see in this series. So it all makes sense in the end. And so we've eventually got our head around it. Adam Isaacson has to come into the pit lane, drops down to 7th place. But I think the encouraging part for him is that he has had speed today. as we get on to 2 laps to go here for Dan Piazza, by the way, new Spurmeister, who's getting closed in on here for the lead, but not quickly enough, I wouldn't imagine. Encouraging moment for Isaacson, though, down in 7th position, and what a championship we've got ahead of us. I don't think we've seen any dominant performances in any of the classes here today. It's pretty wide open, really, based on what we've seen today.
Yeah, I think it has been, and I think that's been a major part of this season, or this championship so far, as we've seen a bit of a stretch in pace across the classes, but also I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that develops over the course of the season. People will get quicker, people will learn the cars. Some of these drivers, this might be their first time, or one of the first times they're driving these cars really in anger in a league, and you can learn so much over the course of an 8-round championship, and especially with the races every other week, it gives the drivers a chance to go away, reflect, see what they could have done differently, and come back stronger. Of course, these cars using officials as well, very much in this format with GT4 and LMP3 officials running half-hour long races, so they can go away, they can practice, they can refine the skills. Replay up on your screen, not sure what this is for. Looks as though we've had an incident down at turn number 5. The 44 has spun Tom Weston in the LMP3 AM class. I think he's still stationary, actually, so whether he has got going again, I'm not sure, but he looks as though he is off the circuit.
Well, nothing for Christophe Herbinot to worry about here. In the end, WSR Esports couldn't really challenge, or at least it will look on the result sheet anyway like they've not really challenged him today, but that could hardly be further from the truth. Nathan Moore and Adam State have run him pretty close, but it's been a good drive from Herbinot in the end, and this should be his victory moment for the driver of the 92. Final seconds tick away here at Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona. Herbinot with this last bit of traffic to negotiate. He's not going to be very aggressive with it either. Just nicely work his way through on it and then get himself through these final couple of corners to enjoy the moment. Christophe Herbinot round the final corner at Barcelona. He is going to win the first round of the World Sports Car Championship for Season 2. A great win by just over 6 seconds here in LMP3, dominant in the final stint after weathering a storm and setting the fastest lap at the end of the race to go with it as well.
And a fantastic race all race through by Christophe Herbinot. He has been perfect in the traffic, taking just about the right amount of risk. That's a tongue twister if you ever try and say that slightly fast. And that shows that's where this championship is going to be won or lost. Nathan Moore, Adam State, they had the pace. Adam maybe going a little bit of a mistake, taking tyres at the end there. I wonder whether that wasn't on purpose, in fact. Nathan Moore has been up there all race long. Traffic giveth, traffic taketh away. That is the important thing to take away from this race.
Next of the leaders to come over the line is going to be Timo Hayden. He did something a little bit different with the pit strategy, taking a few seconds of fuel out of this Mercedes through the first pit stop phase that gave him a lead that allowed him to use the clean air to great effect. Timo Hayden wins the first round in GT4 Pro. Great celebrations will ensue for him as well. Then just behind you, Spurmeister, who did not a similar thing, but did also change around with his first pit stop strategy by having a very short stop after not very many laps at all. Getting into the clean air for him was the best thing that he did, and despite taking a trip to the gravel on this last lap, and despite getting closed in on actually at the end by Piazza especially, he will win by a few seconds in LMP3 AM. And in GT4 AM, Josh Boot is going to take the opening round here at Barcelona, second place in the point standings last season. He is on his way to going one better in Season 2 with that result there. But encouraging races in all 4 classes, I think, Jack. We had close races, we had multiple contenders in all as well.
I think it's going to set us up for a fantastic season of racing over the next 8 rounds. Barcelona, it's always a circuit that creates great multi-class racing, I think. I think it's only going to get better from here.
Christophe Herbinot, the opening round winner, ahead of Nathan Moore by 6 seconds. It's Adam State who was third, ahead of Matt Caruana, who will be wondering where he could have fit onto that podium here today. Leo Bonman will round out the top 5, with Matthias Penteler dropping off towards the end to finish just ahead of Nikolai Loft, who will be Callum Brandt, the last driver, within a minute, with Joost Boemeister, the AM winner, in ninth place, ahead of Dan Piazza, who very nearly caught him towards the end. Mac Farquhar just finished outside of the top 10 with Mert Menderes not too far behind. Diorano Ricciuti recovered from a earlier spin to finish 13th ahead of Adam Locke. Julian Plumet was 15th ahead of Petter Herschel, the final driver on the lead lap. Nicholas Salaputis along with Nicholas Skertz and Adam Hedgecock were 1 lap down. Tom Weston was a couple of laps down, followed by the GT4s. Timo Hayden wins here ahead of Alessandro Proti and Jeremy Royo. Ashley Finch gets into 4th position ahead of Emmanuel Gatzilla, finishes ahead of Adam Isaacson. Disappointed maybe with 6th position, but encouragement for the coming rounds. Richard Simner finished 7th ahead of AM winner Josh Boot. Nick Baggerman was in amongst these GT4s as an LMP3 ahead of Riley Phillips, who finishes 2nd in GT4 AM. Lee Berridge was up there as well, the reigning AM champion. 3rd this time around. Michael Goff was 32nd ahead of Lee King McGee, who recovered from problems after qualifying on pole. Akram Zinune finished just behind then, followed by Sasha Engelsley with that late problem trying to come into pit lane, finishing down in 35th. Evan Natapas finishes 36th ahead of Paul King. Kirkley Consabo, who's made the switch over from LMP3 to GT4 this season. Howard Hassan and Jack Wilkins to round out the top 40. And then the rest of the field, Caleb Ruddock, Eliza Seville and Rob Sutherland were the last drivers to get to the end. Darlin Banshot, Andy Sharp, Toby Ward, Andy Shield, Matt Kielsen, Taylor Lane and Chico Linvatar didn't make it to the checkered flag at the end of 55 laps here this evening. Well, what an interesting race we saw there. Let's chat to some of these winners from tonight's race, starting with Joost Burmeister, who joins us now. Joost, welcome to the booth. Good to have you with us. Good to have you on a return to the World Sports Car Championship here for Season 2, of course, and it's got off to the best possible start. What gave you the idea to go with the strategy that you went ahead with here this evening?
Well, the GT4 traffic was quite brutal in the first run, so I knew how much fuel I needed to take. So I pitted only for just a bit of fuel to avoid the next bit of traffic, so I could just drive in clean air and drive my own pace, and I think that gave me quite a lot of time compared to the other AM drivers.
Well, it certainly worked out well. I mean, were you worried about getting overtaken at the end there? Because we saw Dan Piazza really closing on you and the gap was only 3.5 seconds at the line.
Yeah, I looked real close at that time that he gained on me, and he was really fast in the end there. I think on average he gained like a second a lap, and that was just about enough to leave me like a gap of 2 seconds or something.
You mentioned the first run through traffic was quite brutal here. What do you think about Monza in 2 weeks?
Well, Monza's gonna be easier, to be fair. I think. I hope.
Even at the start?
Nope. Nah, I mean, the start of a race always is a bit difficult with traffic because everyone is clogged up. I mean, you can't do anything about that. But other than that, it went really well. They were pretty predictable. There were some outliers, but overall it was good traffic. I didn't expect the traffic to be like this on this track, to be fair.
Well, yeah, it was certainly challenging, but congratulations on the win here tonight at Barcelona, Joost. We look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks' time, and once again, thanks very much for coming to chat to us.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks very much, Joost Burmeister there, the winner in LMP3 AM. Let's go to GT4. He referenced the slower traffic there, and Timo Hayden was one of those, of course, but slow may be the wrong word. Congratulations, Timo, on the win here tonight in GT4 Pro. Good to chat to you afterwards as well. It was also very similar to you two we just talked to there, actually. It was a bit of strategy for those first pit stop cycles that really gave you the upper hand. What gave you the idea for that? Was it the race situation? Was it a pre-planned move?
Yeah, hey. Sorry, I'm pretty done after this race. I know we can't drive away in draft, or you can't drive away in draft on this track, so the only idea I had was just relax, stay calm, stay behind all the others, and I saved a lot of fuel, and I was surprised that the gap after the pit stop was bigger, or that big, like nearly 2 seconds, I don't know. And then I thought, okay, full throttle, go for it. Then I got held up by another car. Maybe the race control have another look on that after the race, but nevertheless, The race was pretty well after that. Yeah, here and there, sometimes a little bit traffic with LMP3s, but yeah, you have to deal with it on this track or in this combination. But anyways, I'm very happy about the first race, first victory. Good start into the season, and let's go.
What do you think that's going to do to the rest of the season in terms of, do you think that your strategy move here today will give other people the idea to do it in future rounds?
Depends on the track. Depends really on the track, and on the second you have to survive first the traffic, then you can deal on other things.
Well, the strategy certainly worked out well for you today, Timo.
Yes.
Congratulations on the win, and thanks very much for coming to chat to us.
Thank you for broadcasting it.
Thanks very much. Timo Hayden there, the race winner in GT4 Pro. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to speak to the other winners in classes here tonight. A word of warning and a word of reminder to drivers, if you're listening, or if your teammates, tell your drivers, especially if they've won, get in here and chat to us afterwards, why not? But that is just about going to do it for us here tonight. In 2 weeks' time, we'll be visiting the Autodromo Nazionale Monza, and it will be interesting, I think is the word. Jack, you said there that the traffic might well be less strenuous, and you can certainly see why. The LMP3s will be able to make their way through on GT4s on the straights a bit more, but it's the start that everyone worries about at this venue.
I mean, Monza, when it comes to traffic, let's be honest, Monza, it's an oval with a couple of chicanes. It's, you know, it's not quite the twistiness that we've seen at Barcelona. There's still a lot of challenges with multi-class racing at Monza. But as you say, the start, that first chicane, that is a massive choke point. We always see it whenever we go to Monza. Every series, it always has some incident going down into turn number 1. It's going to be an interesting start. I cannot wait.
Absolutely. Going to be a fascinating race. So join us again in a couple of weeks. Thanks very much to everyone who's been watching here on RaceSpotTV here this evening. It's been great to have your company throughout the racing here tonight. For now, though, from myself, you and Louis, Jack Stowers alongside me with Mike Yao behind the cameras as well. We'll see you in a couple of weeks at Monza. Goodbye for now.